All right, these are our notes, or the first part of the notes on completing the square. But before we learn to complete the square, I want to review a little factoring. So on this first one, we have a trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1. This is one of our green light ones. We're going to go straight to our two parentheses. We've got an x and an x. And now we need two numbers that multiply to positive 4 and add to positive 4. Well, those two numbers would be positive 2 and positive 2. Now in a situation like this, when we have the same thing, you may have learned that you can rewrite this as x plus 2 squared. And this is going to come in handy soon. On the next one, when I factor this, it's a trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1, so I have x minus 3, or excuse me, x, and the two numbers that multiply to 9 and add to negative 6 are negative 3 and negative 3, so I can rewrite this x minus 3 squared. All right, one more. When I factor this, I'm going to have an x and an x. My two numbers that multiply to 25 and add to 10 would be 5 and 5. So when I rewrite this, this is x plus 5 squared. Now when we complete the square here in just a second, our goal is to create these. These are called perfect square trinomials. So when they factor to something plus or minus a number squared. Now, I want you to notice something. Notice this middle number is 4, and this is 2 and 2. This is negative 6 and negative 3 and 3. This is 10 and positive 5 and 5. Remember that when we do these problems in a minute. All right, so this is what we do to complete the square. So we're going to start by writing the y. This negative 13 needs to go to the other side. So when I move it to the other side, I'm going to get plus 13. Then I'm going to have plus blank. Okay, and we're going to fill in the blank in a minute. Over here, I'm going to, whoops, forgot my equal sign. Then I have equals x squared plus 4x plus blank. Now my goal is to figure out what number is going to go in the blank. And the way I do that is I take 4 divided by 2, and I get 2. And then I'm going to take the 2 and square it, and I get 4. Now, this is an equation. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do the other to keep it balanced. So since I added 4 there, I have to add 4 over here. So now when I simplify this, on this side I get y plus 17, and on this side I have x squared plus 4x plus 4. And what we're going to do now is factor it. So the two numbers that multiply to 4 and add to 2 are 2 and 2, so I can rewrite it as x plus 2 squared. Notice half of 4 is 2. Okay, it's still not in vertex form though, and that's what we're aiming for. So to get it in vertex form, we're going to subtract 17 from both sides, and we get y equals x plus 2 squared minus 17. Well, now that it's in vertex form, we know all sorts of things that we learned before. The vertex is the opposite of what's in the parentheses, which is negative 2, and then the number that's at the end, which is negative 17. My axis of symmetry is x equals the x-coordinate, which is negative 2. Now it wants a maximum or minimum. Well, it starts with a positive, so this parabola is going to open up. So if it opened up, this vertex down here has to be the lowest point, so it's the minimum, and it's the minimum at my y value, which is negative 17. Okay, let's try this again on, well, this looks kind of goofy. Ignore this one in there. On problem 2. So on problem 2, we're going to start by moving this 71 to the other side. So it's going to be negative 71 plus, and then I'm going to have a blank, equals x squared minus 14x plus blank. Now I have to figure out what number goes in the blank. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take half of negative 14. So I'm going to do negative 14 divided by 2, which is negative 7. And then I'm going to square negative 7, which will give me 49. To keep the equation balanced, whatever I add to one side, I have to add to the other. So I'm going to add 49 to the other side over here. Now I need to simplify. Y minus 71 plus 49 is y minus 22. Over here, I'm going to factor it. And the two numbers that multiply to 49 and add to negative 14 would be negative 7 and 7. And notice half of 14 is negative 7. Okay, it's not in vertex form just yet. I have to add 22 to both sides. And when I do that, I get y equals x minus 7 squared plus 22. Now the rest of this stuff is just review from the first section we learned. The vertex is the opposite of what's in the parentheses, so positive 7, the number at the end, which is 22. The axis of symmetry is x equals the x-coordinate of the vertex, which is 7. This graph, because it starts with a positive, it opens up. So this is the lowest point, it's the minimum, and it's the minimum at the y value. Since we're not graphing these, I'm not concerned that these numbers are large. That doesn't affect us at all. Let's try this again on number 3. So I'm going to put y. This negative 58 has to go to the other side, so it becomes positive 58 plus blank equals. Okay, now here's the catch. This whole completing the square and doing this process we did up here, it only works when we've got x squared. But on this one over here, we've got negative 2x squared. And we see that we have to factor out the negative 2. So I'm going to take the negative 2 out of these terms. So I'm going to take out the negative 2, and I'm left with positive x squared, and negative 20 divided by negative 2 is positive 10x plus blank. Now I need to fill in the blanks. So to fill in the blanks, I'm going to take half of this number. So half of 10 is 5, and then I'm going to have 5 squared, which is 25. So that's the number that's going to go here. Now it looks like you'd fill in this other blank with 25, but you got to be careful. We didn't actually add 25. We added negative 2 times 25, which is negative 50. So on the left, when we simplify it, we get y plus 8 equals, and over here I've got negative 2, and this is going to factor the two numbers that multiply to 25 and add to 10 would be 5 and 5, so this factors to x plus 5 squared. Notice half of 10 is 5. It's not a coincidence. So to finish getting in vertex form, I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. So that leaves me with y equals negative 2 x plus 5 squared minus 8. Now remember that negative 2, that the negative is a reflection, the 2 is a vertical stretch, but it doesn't change the vertex. The vertex is the opposite what's in the parentheses, which is negative 5, and the number at the end, which is negative 8. The axis of symmetry is x equals the x-coordinate, which is negative 5. Now this graph, because it starts with a negative 2, it opens down. So the vertex here is the highest point, so it is a maximum, and it is a maximum at the y value that's negative 8. All right, on the last one, number 4. So this negative 93 needs to move to the other side. So it's going to be y plus 93 plus blank equals. And because this does not start with an invisible negative 1, I have to factor that negative 3 out. So when I take out the negative 3, negative 3x squared divided by negative 3 is x squared. 36 divided by negative 3 is going to be negative 12x plus blank. Okay, so now I got to fill in the numbers. So to figure that out, half of negative 12, so I'm going to do negative 12 divided by 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 squared is positive 36. So I'm adding 36. Now it looks like that I added 36, but I didn't. I added negative 3 times 36, which is negative 108. Now I need to simplify. 93 plus negative 108 is 15 equals negative 3. Now how is this going to factor? Well, I need two numbers that multiply to 36 and add to negative 12, which would be negative 6 and negative 6. And half of negative 12 is negative 6, right? So then to continue solving, I'm going to continue getting it vertex form. I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides, so vertex form would be y equals negative 3 x minus 6 squared minus 15. My vertex is the opposite of what's in the parentheses, which is 6. The number that's added on, that's negative 15. My axis of symmetry is x equals the x-coordinate, so x equals 6. This graph, because it starts with a negative, opens down. The vertex is the highest point, so it's a maximum, and it's a maximum at my y value at negative 15.